Now, Joe Biden's efforts to tamp down tensions in the war between Israel and Hamas faced massive setbacks even before he departed for West Asia. Jordan called off the president's planned summit with Arab leaders after a deadly explosion at a Gaza hospital that killed hundreds. As the crisis spirals, the Iranian foreign minister is in the Saudi city of Jeddah for an emergency meeting of OIC nations. The role of Saudi Arabia remains hugely sensitive here. Some analysts suggest moves to normalize the kingdom's own relationship with Israel could have been one of the motivations for the attack by Hamas. Now, the emergency meeting of OIC nation becomes critical in this context. Remember, in March, Tehran and Riyadh agreed to re-establish relations after years of hostility. The Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza blamed an Israeli airstrike. The Israeli military said that it had no involvement and pinned the blame on a misfired Palestinian rocket. Jordan's foreign minister said, and I quote, "This war and this aggression are pushing the region to the brink." He stated Jordan would only host the summit when all participants agreed on its purpose, which would be to stop the war and respect the humanity of the Palestinians. Now, while in the air, Biden released a statement saying that he was outraged and deeply saddened by the explosion at the hospital and the terrible loss of life that resulted. He said that he spoke immediately after hearing the news with King Abdullah II of Jordan and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. Netanyahu is blaming barbaric terrorists, but Biden has directed his national security team to continue gathering information about what exactly happened. The cancellation of the Jordan leg of the trip reflects an increasingly volatile situation here that will test the limits of American influence in the region. Here's why the Jordan summit was crucial for the U.S. president. The Israel-Palestinian conflict has been ongoing for decades, and to a large extent, it's involved the same cadre of leaders. Netanyahu is the longest-serving prime minister in Israeli history, and Abbas has been Palestinian president for nearly 20 years, while Abdullah II has been king since 1999. Biden has called the Jordanian king a loyal ally in a tough neighborhood. Al-Sisi is the newest leader, president of Egypt since 2014.
Today, my organization, DAWN, joins forces with many other groups here in Washington, D.C., in calling on our government and President Biden to immediately call for a ceasefire in Israel and Palestine. Instead of landing in Tel Aviv and then joining the Israeli government's war planning cabinet, which will make him and the United States complicit in Israel's crimes, we're calling on our president to call for a ceasefire and end the madness that's going on. What we're seeing also after the Jordanian government canceled its meeting with President Biden is that this is a sign of how ineffective the United States policy has been in the Middle East. The U.S. is losing its political leverage and political capital because of its biased positions supporting Israel. The blank check policy to Israel has to end. The United States has to play a better role in brokering peace around the region.
Furious protesters tried to storm the Israeli embassy in Amman, where Biden was due to meet Arab leaders. Lebanon's Iran-backed Hezbollah called for a day of rage over the strike to coincide with Biden's arrival. It fueled fears of the very escalation by Tehran and its allies that the U.S. president's visit is supposed to warn against. Tear gas fired near U.S. embassy in Lebanon at protesters. Hundreds of angry protesters gathered outside the French embassy in Tunisia on Tuesday, also denouncing the United States. In Iraq, scores of protesters gathered near Baghdad's Green Zone following the Gaza Hospital blast. Hundreds in the Iranian capital of Tehran protested against Israel outside French and UK embassies. Apart from funding Hamas, Israel's arch foe backs Hezbollah in Lebanon. French President Emmanuel Macron said that nothing can justify targeting civilians and called for humanitarian access without delay. Qatar's foreign ministry called the hospital strike a dangerous escalation in the course of the confrontations. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan condemned the incident as the latest example of Israeli attacks devoid of the most basic human values.
We know that
the UN human rights chief called the hospital strike totally unacceptable, insisting that the perpetrators must be held to account. UN chief called for immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Israel-Hamas conflict. Speaking at the Belt and Road Initiative Forum in China, Antonio Guterres stated that Hamas attacks cannot justify the collective punishment of the Palestinian people. Russia and the United Arab Emirates called for an emergency UN Security Council meeting. EU's Charles Michel said that targeting civilian infrastructure in Gaza breaks international law. And the African Union chief accused Israel of a war crime following the deadly strike. The World Health Organization condemned the deadly strike and demanded the immediate protection of civilians and healthcare in the Gaza Strip. Now, for more on this, we were joined earlier by Ahtisham Shahid from Dubai. Mr. Shahid is the editor at the Emirates Policy Center. Listen in.
They're trying to consolidate resources to come up with a common front as far as this in this most recent escalation is concerned. It's taken a lot of people by surprise, the intensity of it. I mean, nothing in the Middle East is a surprise in the larger context, but the escalation was expected to an extent, but there was also a sense that there would be some preparation for ground offensive. There's a lot happening on the diplomatic front that will have an effect, and at least humanitarian corridors would be open. But that hasn't happened in this last night's strike on the hospital hasn't helped matters. So it's going to be very difficult for Arab capitals to come up with a common strategy to respond to the needs of the time.